My name is Hannah, and this is my year of less stuff. Hey y'all, so as you can tell, I still have the camera on the little tripod in front of my mirror, and I'm just filming myself again putting on makeup today. I'm not ready to move it back to where it was or to another position, and I'm not quite ready to launch into the next phase of regular content, which for me will probably start with the review of the Fenty blushes. It'll be soon, it's coming soon, but I just need one more day of just this. So this will be really similar to the last video that went up, which was just a get ready with me spotlighting some Cosmetics products. But today I don't really feel like wearing makeup. Like I've just been sitting here for 10 minutes brooding because I think if I didn't have a YouTube channel and if I wasn't trying to encourage myself to keep making content even through some low periods, then I would just be going without makeup today. I feel like this is fine. I just piled on a bunch of skincare and another one of the sunscreens that I'm testing, and I'm ready to just curl up in a chair and read or get some writing work done or something. And so what I decided to do is to film kind of a semi-chatty get ready with me this time. So I am going to be wearing very minimal makeup. Like you're going to see what I do when I don't feel like putting on makeup, but I do want to continue to engage in this ritual because I know that it helps to kind of balance me and center me. And then I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about how things are going. I also did put one of my softbox lights. I found a way to angle it so that I'm getting some of that light. So I'm hoping that the color will be a little bit more realistic. I don't know, I might still be a little bit blown out, but the makeup for this video, I mean, more than ever, is just not really going to matter that much. I'm just going to put on my regular quarantine beat and chat with you guys. Let's go ahead and get into the meat of the video. I'm going to start by putting my hair back, and actually I do want to tell you that I'm trying out these phone cord hairbands, which I've never really had an interest in because I don't really love the way they look. They look kind of gimmicky to me, even though I've heard people raving about them. But I got the chance to try them out. They were sent to me as PR from the brand CHIT-CHAT, which does have its own website, but I believe that it's also sold in Sephora. Some CHIT-CHAT things are also sold in Sephora. And so I was perfectly happy to try them out because something's been happening to me lately, which is that my scalp has been hurting from my hair being up. I'm gonna keep talking to you about it, but put on a little bit of primer. In fact, I'm testing this primer. Simbri is such a sweetheart. She sent me a couple of things that she's not using from where she's quarantined, and one of the things she sent me was this Kogen green makeup base. I believe that it's a primer, and it's like a very pale primer with a little bit of a green tone to it. So I'm gonna prime with this today, actually. It will suit what I feel like doing or rather not doing today. Oh, it's very white pigmented, sort of. So what's been going on with my head is it's not an issue of like a headache. I don't feel like, I know people often talk about, and this has happened to me before, when you wear your hair in a hairband for too long, you can kind of get an ache inside of your head from it, like it's giving you a headache. That isn't what's been happening to me, and it also hasn't been that discomfort of like having your hair up in one direction for too long and then when you take it down and the hair kind of goes back to its normal position, it kind of hurts. It hasn't been that either. I feel like what's going on is that my hair follicles are like being strained from my hair being pulled up too much, and they just have become sensitive, like as if someone's been pulling my hair a lot and it's made my hair follicles sensitive because of being pulled. So I had been resisting wearing my hair in hairbands. I had like stopped using my hairbands, and I had this one clip, like one of those butterfly clips that I've been using because it's a little bit more of like a diffused hold, so it wasn't making my scalp ache the way that the hairbands were. And so when I got the opportunity to test these out from CHIT-CHAT, I was like, oh yeah, because that's what I've heard about these, that they don't pull your hair as hard and they don't make your head hurt. And it's proved to be totally true so far. I've only had them for a couple of days, but I've been wearing my hair up in a bun or sometimes in a ponytail in one of these phone cord thingies like 24/7 to test it out, and so far my scalp has not felt hurt by it at all. It's kind of amazing. I'm actually really excited about it and grateful to CHIT for sending it. So I still have quite dry skin right now, and I don't feel like I can fairly judge this primer. It's like picking up a little bit of my dry spots, picking up a little bit on my dry spots because it's so white based. I didn't apply very much of it, and it's not bad enough for me to like care right now. I'm gonna go in with, actually, I'm gonna go in with a touch of this, my brightest concealer, because of the redness I'm dealing with, and I just don't want to wear that much makeup, so I'm gonna try to use as little as possible to create the look I want. So yesterday I did something that to me at this point in quarantine is totally radical, because I am one of these people who, because of my circumstances, I really haven't left my apartment for almost 2 months. We, for a long time, didn't have any access to our studio, which is only a short way away. Now we have limited access to it, but just Joe is going over there to ship things if we sell anything on our website just once a week. So I haven't really gone out at all. I haven't been over there. I think that since our last grocery shopping trip before the lockdown, I've like left and gone out and gone somewhere just the one time about a month ago, which was to go over the first time we had access to the studio and get some packages. But I have really been inside of our apartment. I know that that's true for some people in other places, and for a lot of people that's not true. For a lot of people, quarantine hasn't really taken that shape. But for me, it has, and it's partly just because it doesn't feel safe where we live to go out. Downtown is still kind of busy. There's no real way to stay 6 feet apart from someone on a busy sidewalk when they're not trying to stay 6 feet apart from you. And even in our building, like the elevators and the rooftop, which ordinarily would be such a nice place to go to, it just feels like full of people who aren't trying to respect the safety precautions. It's difficult to tell someone, like, please don't get into the elevator with me, like I'm just gonna get off on the ground floor and then you can call it back. Or sometimes to be like, if you're getting in, I will get out. And even like when I'm being my boldest and trying my best to put up boundaries and make the space, moving around in my own building, going up and down the elevator, being in the lobby, being in the rooftop, feels like one of the least safe places to me in terms of trying to keep safety measures in place and stay social distanced from people. So it makes me feel like there's a barrier to even going outside. And then if I were to like walk outside and walk down the street where I live, I think I would just feel really anxious and stressed the whole time, because I know that I would be putting myself in proximity to other people no matter how hard I tried not to be, and to people who aren't wearing masks and aren't taking this disease seriously. I feel like even though I feel like I'm starting to suffer from not having any time outdoors, like it's starting to really suffer is such a strong word, like I'm fine, I'm healthy and I'm fine, but I've been feeling I've been missing it, but I feel like the stress of going outside where I live would outweigh the benefits of like getting a little bit of sunshine and fresh air. And the air is not even that fresh downtown anyway. I think I'm gonna leave that for the base. Oh shoot, and the battery's running out. I'm gonna switch the battery, and then when we come back, I think I'm just gonna put on lash primer and mascara and have that be it for the eyes. Okay, we're back. I'm gonna put this violet lash primer on, even though I'm not wearing any eyeshadow today. It's like go big or go home lashes, you know? What was I talking about? So I have thought about trying to drive somewhere, because I can get to my car without going outside. There's a garage underneath our apartment building, and that's where we rent a parking spot. And so I've thought about getting in the car and driving somewhere to be in nature, but it's hard because for a long time all the beaches were closed. The national parks are still mostly closed because people, again, weren't social distancing responsibly, and so the government had to crack down on public spaces. And I don't really know any like private spaces in nature that I could get to easily that's not a really long drive. On top of which, I've been so busy with some writing stuff that I've been working on. I haven't had like a whole day where I could just screw off and like drive and try to find a place. I haven't had that for this entire 2 months. I feel like it would have been irresponsible for me to do that. But this week I have a little bit of a reprieve. I'm waiting to hear back about some stuff. And yesterday I had a day where I technically could afford to just go. And that's what I did for the first time in this whole 2 months. I just got in the car. I drove straight out to the ocean, and then I got on the Pacific Coast Highway and started driving north. And I drove north until I was passing beaches, kind of at the very northern tip of Malibu. I was passing beaches that were open and very, very, very lightly populated. So I could see like 2 or 3 surfers out in the ocean and then like 1 or 2 people on the shore on a long stretch of shore. So I found one and I just pulled my car over on the side of the road because the beaches are technically open, but the parking lots for the beaches are closed. So I parked on the shoulder and then I just went out onto the beach and found a spot, which was totally easy because there was almost nobody there, but I just, I was like 100 feet from anyone else in all directions. And I just put out a little towel and I laid down and like read a book for a couple of hours and just breathed in the air of the beach. And it was weird. It was weird to go out. I felt kind of bad, like using up the gas. It just felt so indulgent to like just drive out there just for no reason other than to like lie there by myself. And I mean, I don't know, that wouldn't ordinarily feel indulgent, but there was something about it being such an unusual thing to do in this context for me. And it was also, I think, kind of sad. Like, it's one thing to know what's going on out there and to look at the news and to, look out our windows. Like, we can see people out the windows and, we can see we know what's going on. Like, we have good imaginations. But it's another to, like, be driving out away from my own home and, like, seeing the billboards that reference COVID and seeing the freeway be, have fewer cars on it than it ordinarily would, and just like having a visual, even if it was just like driving through the city and like just looking at buildings and just looking at other spaces that I've been able to see with my own 2 eyes during this entire pandemic, that allowed my imagination to form like an even more concrete sense of what's going on in the world. And that made me feel sad because it's like, again, it's one thing to sort of like have it be 90% imagination and 90% constructed from like what you've read, and it's another thing to have it be like thoughts and imagery that's like flooding into your mind as a result of what you're actually seeing and like the spaces that you're moving through. And I don't think that's a bad thing, because it is good to be able to process this as reality and like to be able to actually be aware of one's own feelings about it and like live with them and confront them, and also use that knowledge, that increased sense of the reality of this situation, to use that knowledge to inform my actions. I don't think that it's bad, but it was just different and it was a little bit overwhelming in some ways. I feel like I should have zoomed in while I was applying those lash products, because it's kind of striking and also very weird, but I really, really like the way that they're looking. I'm gonna zoom in and tell you about it. I don't know how well you'll be able to see it. I tried to leave them sort of extra tangled and weird so I could show you, but the primer creates kind of like an extension of the lash. And then that Gucci mascara, because it's so kind of buildable and kind of clump enhancing, it creates like these tangly bits of crud like in the tips of my lashes. I feel like you can especially see it on this side. And it's like a build-up, almost like little speckles of black and little tangled stuff in the tips of my lashes. And I know that that's like a super weird thing to like, and it probably sounds abhorrent, but I really like it. There's something about that like tangly stuff that is it's very theatrical to me. It's very kind of like, I don't know, like Liza Minnelli and Cabaret sort of, and kind of draggy. Like there's something about it. It's almost like an everyday drag for the eyelashes. So like a little bit statement. It's not trying to look like I'm not wearing mascara. Like it's not natural. And there's also something like a bit ragamuffin-y about it. It just really suits me. It's like my favorite bit of flair for an everyday makeup look or a no makeup look. And I think that today was a really good example because the Gucci mascara does lend itself to that. But when you add the power of the Milani, the violet one, which I'm so impressed by, it's just like that to the nth degree. And I hope you're able to see it well in that close-up shot. All right, let's do just the lightest sculpting of the brows. I did dye my brows. I have dyed them since the last time I filmed, but I did a pretty light dye job. I kept them very thin. I didn't like thicken them. They're almost like dyed a little bit thinner than they are naturally, actually. And I didn't leave the dye in as long as I usually do. I feel like it came out matching my hair pretty much exactly. So, and usually they're a little bit lighter than my hair when they're natural, and usually I dye them a little bit darker and ashier than my hair. So this is like one of my more natural bits of work on my brows. What was I talking about? I was talking about going to the ocean. So, you know, it was like a very long drive. It doesn't feel like something I can do a lot for a variety of reasons. And I also don't know how much of a reprieve, how long this reprieve will be. I don't know how many more days I'm going to have in the coming months where I feel like I can afford to like drive for an hour and a half, to be on the beach for an hour or two, and then, you know, drive an hour and a half back. It was like a day-long project to just breathe the sea air for an hour or two. And I don't know if I'll be able to afford that any other time. But, you know, if this quarantine goes on, and it has been extended for us in California by a few months, so it is definitely going on. If it goes on and on, then I might try to make more little bits of time to do that, and maybe to go other places beside the beach. Unfortunately, when I was lying on the beach, I was reading the last book that I have in my possession that I consider to be like a soothing or like a relaxing bedtime book. I've started to kind of divide my reading into two groups because I've been taking advantage of having a little bit of extra time right now to read a bunch of books that I've been meaning to read for a long time. There are a lot of books of essays, a lot of sort of memoir style books, women's stories, basically like books that contain in some form or another the stories of women. I think all of them could be considered to be like somewhere on the spectrum of feminist literature or literature that's about women's lives. And I do read those books in usual life, like in normal life, but it tends to be more spread out. And recently I've taken advantage of having a little bit of time to like cram a bunch of them in and get caught up on things I've been meaning to read for a long time. So one was Trick Mirror by Gia Tolentino, which I strongly recommend. I'll actually list a couple down below that I've read recently that I strongly recommend. Recollections of My Non-Existence, which is Rebecca Solnit's memoir. And I'm currently reading a memoir of perfectionism, a memoir of a writer, Elizabeth Talent, who was born to a deeply perfectionist mother and inherited her perfectionism. The memoir is called Scratched. Such a good title for that book. I've been keeping the reading of those books to the daytime because if I were to read them at night when I'm trying to fall asleep, they would keep me up and also probably make it harder to like drift off into a restful sleep because they're very stimulating for my brain. So the other kinds of books that I've been talking to you guys about, the murder mysteries, basically like the cozies, those are the ones I've been reading at night. But I finished all of the Hilary Tomar books by Sarah Caldwell. I scoured my house, but I think that I decluttered my books when I moved from the old apartment to this apartment, and everything that was light in that way, I decluttered because I was like, when am I going to read this again? And I was like, if I need it, you know, I had some, you know, World War II spy novels, series, those kinds of things. And I gave them all away, even though some of them, I remember having like the whole Maisie Dobbs series in paperback, and I gave it all away because I was just like, if I want to read them again, I can get them out of the library. which was good thinking at that time when I was trying to downsize, but now I wish I hadn't because I can't get them out of the library. So I bought some more used books online to be like calming nighttime reading, some of the books that you guys have recommended and some that I've been scoping out. But in the meantime, I picked up a book that I have on my shelf that I did want to read again. It's the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society, a fantastic epistolary novel about World War II as well. I had such a joyous time reading it again. It's really delightful, but I was like, oh, this will get me through until the other books arrive in the mail. And then I read almost the whole thing while I was lying on the beach. So I'm in a little bit of a gap where the only books that I have yet unread around me that I really want to read are in the category of overstimulating and often depressing feminist literature. We'll see how it goes from here. I want to wear a cream on my cheeks, and I want it to be quite glossy, but I really want it to set down and feel... Oh, I'll use one of the Daniel Sandler watercolor blushes because I've been wanting to demonstrate them and talk about them more. I'll use Sun Glow, which is the kind of the bronzing one, which is, it actually makes sort of a brown blush for me. But I'm going to apply it, yeah, I'm gonna use this fluffy rougher brush, it's the P09A. I'm gonna try to kind of be targeted with my application of it. I'll zoom you in a little bit, I know you're pretty far away. The one studio light that I have is coming from this side, so this will be the cheek where you'll really be able to see it the best. They're super watery, it's like a super liquidy base mixed with a pigment, and I find that I have the best luck if I drop it out on the back of my hand and then I use that. And I've been dropping out more than I need because it actually dries kind of quickly on my hand, and I find that I go back a couple times and then it's all dried out. So I'm gonna try to concentrate it sort of there. It's so watery that I find it best to really like tap it in the area where I want it concentrated until it starts to dry, and then start buffing the edges of that place where I had tapped it. And then it really buffs out to sheerness if you make it. I think that I'm getting a little blown out. Come back here so you can maybe see better. So it should be a slightly different lighting on this side. Maybe you can see it a little bit better. That's the spot where I want it to be the most built up. And around the edges of that spot, I'm just buffing. Always hit the tip of the nose a little bit to help tie it together. I know I'm catching a really strong bit of light on this side in like the monitor of the camera. In the mirror, it really looks really quite, I'm trying to block the light a little bit so you guys can see. It looks really natural, basically is what I'm trying to say, because it doesn't quite look like color. It almost just looks like a little bit of sun, like a little bit of darkening of the tone of my skin rather than like getting like a red color. It almost just looks like a bit of sculpting. And now I'm going overboard adding more because I just happen to have it on the back of my hand and I can't help myself. And it does dry. That's one of the things that I really like about this product, is that they do dry down and they become just like like pigment on the surface of your skin, almost like a powder, but they set because they were originally in that liquid form. It's really beaming. Again, this is the one called Sun Glow. And it was, if you missed me talking about it in a different video, it was in a set of 4 that was sent to me by Skin Store. They're selling 4 for $60, I think. And I think that if you buy them new, they're like $25 or something like that. Not new, but if you buy them individually, obviously they were new when they came in the set. It might be time for me to wrap up this weird, chatty, hopefully short video. I'm gonna put a lip product on. You know, I'm just gonna go with what I've been wearing every single time I do my makeup when I don't have like a lip agenda. I've been just defaulting to the Glossier Vanillic Lip in Pony. When I was selecting, I wanted to test 2 different colors. When I was selecting them, I picked Disco, which is like the sort of terracotta, easy to wear terracotta red. And then I almost didn't pick Pony because I was afraid it would be too pink, like too mauve on me. And indeed it is more mauve than I expected it to be. It's like a little bit more mauve than I maybe would have liked. I'd like it if it were a little bit grayer, a little bit grungier. But it's close enough to the line. It's close enough to that line of being neutral or being a nude that I don't find it abhorrently pink or like abhorrently mauve. It's just right on the line. And in fact, it reminds me quite a lot of a lip product that I really loved and that I used to wear constantly as my go-to neutral. It was the Bite Beauty crayon, lip crayon in the color Glacé. If you remember when I was like wearing that constantly and using it up pretty much, then you're like an OG on my channel, because that was way back at the beginning of my no-buy year, and I believe I used it up during my no-buy year. I feel like this is that same color, but it's in this really lovely, even more natural formula, because that was more of a matte, and this is, it's like a gloss, really. I'll put it on and you can see what I'm talking about. So freshly applied, it looks pretty lipsticky. Like it's very clear that I'm wearing a lip color, and it has changed the shape of my lips a little bit because I just overlined a tiny bit. But I find that either if I blot it like that, or even just if I wear it a little while and like drink something from my water bottle, it immediately kind of melts into the lips and becomes something that looks more natural. Like it doesn't look quite, just with that little bit of blotting, I don't look quite so much like lipstick, you know, like mauve lipstick. It doesn't look quite so finished. The surface of it isn't quite so uniform, and it just looks a little bit more like my lips but better. But it's the glossy or like chapsticky or juicier version of that than the other Glossy lip product, which is the Generation G, which is like a matte stain type of product. I don't tend to like fruit flavoring in lip products, but this has like a very fresh and sort of thin and delicate apricot scent and flavor, and for some reason that appeals to me so much more than the vanillas or the berry kind of like fake berry fruits. That's a lot of times what a berry flavored lip product will taste or smell like. So that is it, you guys. This is the finished look, and in spite of myself, I do feel better since I put it on. I was sort of in this moment before I sat down and made myself film this, where I was like feeling like I would feel too made up if I put on any makeup. I just kind of wanted to like stay in the grub phase all day, and I was feeling like crispy eyelashes, no, and like cakey skin, no. But I don't feel that way. I feel kind of very fresh-faced, and just putting a little bit of mascara, I mean, it's not a little bit, I kind of went there with the mascara, but just putting mascara on the top lashes and not putting anything on my lids, and just putting enough wax in my brows to put them in shape. I still feel like my natural self, but I just feel a little bit more polished, and it was also a delight to spend some time with you. It always cheers me up to do that. I hope that the lighting wasn't too intense. It's sort of an evolving process of finding out what I need to do to film decent footage in like different parts of my house and at different angles. It's one of the things that's keeping me going, and I appreciate you being patient with me. If this ended up not being a very good video in terms of footage, I hope it was at least entertaining to hang out with me a little bit while I put on my makeup and talked a little bit about my beach adventure and how things are going in general for me. Thank you for being here, and don't forget to take extra good care of yourself today so that you can be the most effective version of yourself as you do your work in the world.